welcome back. Let's start the second part. That is like once the user says yes, we'll capture where the user has went out as well as at what time they have went out, and then we'll store those details in our Firestore DB. So for the first thing, first we write the scenes, then we'll write the webhook to connect with the Firestore and store the data. So first we'll start creating the scene for getting the inputs from the user, that is like where they went and at what time they went on. So first we'll start creating a scene, like we create a new scene named as like add route. So we'll click on that one. So on enter, so we are not going to capture anything on the enter, so we'll be having a slot filling here, so which will ask the questions to the user like where they went as well as at what time they went. So we'll be having two slots here, one to capture the location and the second one to capture the date and time. So first we'll start creating a slot for to get the location. So we'll give the name as place. So we'll create a new slot, a type. So it will be a custom type. So we'll click on the types and plus click on new type and give the name as location. So click on that location. So we'll just go and continue. So it will be like any form of free form of test, like we are not restricting the user to say like only the places which we are going to add it in this types. So it can be any form, like they can say like they went to church, or they went to a petrol bunk or gas station, or they went to a pharmacy. So they can say anything what the user feels. So we are not going to have like a set of words so which will be matching, so those kinds of things we are not doing. So we'll be choose the free form of test and click save. Yeah. Once it is saved, we'll go back to the add route scene. So we'll click on the slot filling again, and we'll give the name as for the first slot as place, and then we'll choose the type which we have created, and then we'll enable this as a required field, like the user has to give their location where they went, and then we'll give a prompt like where did you went out, where did you went today. So we'll just click save. So now we'll create one more slot, that is to capture the date and time. So we'll add one more, and now we'll give the name as the time they visited, so visit time. So for this type we will be choosing the system types, that is the date and time. So and we'll mark this slot as a required one. Then we'll give a prompt like what time did you went there, then we'll hit on save. So now we have written the slots, like the list of fields which we require from the user. So then we'll be having a condition here, like if both the slots has been filled, then what should be the next thing to be done. So now for testing purpose, we'll give a prompt, then we'll connect it with the webhook. So we got the input from user, then we'll skip. So now what happens is, like, from the main invocation, when the action is being get invoked, it will be called the greetings handler, which will go to our cloud function greetings handler. If it is a new or an existing user, it will move to the respective scene. So once it moves to the user activity scene, that's here, like it will ask the question like whether the user is whether the user has went out today or not. So once the user says yes, then we'll match this one to our intent, I mean the scene. So we'll transit to the add route scene. So now we'll click save. So once the user says yes, so it will go to the add route scene. So on here, like once the scene gets activated, so it will check the slot filling. So first slot will be get called. So it will ask the question like where did the user has went, where did you went today. So which will store the user's information in the place slot. So once this slot has been filled up, it will ask the next question, that is visit time. So when did the user visited the place. So it will ask the question like when did the user has, at what time the user has went there. So once that part is get completed, so we'll be having like at what time did you went there. So once this data has been get filled, then the condition will be get matched. So both the slots has been get filled. So then we'll be intimating the user like we got the input. So this is for a testing purpose. Like once this one is works fine, then we'll connect it with our webhook. So now it's time to test our action. So we'll reset the test. And we'll do the trick. So now the testing has been enabled. Now we'll invoke our action. Yes. A park. At 5 p.m. So the slots get filled out. Like so first what happens is like the action is being get invoked. From the main invocation, it moves to the user activity. So from the user activity, so when the user says yes, so it moves to the add route scene. So from the add route scene, it invokes the slot, and then once the first slot gets filled out, again it checks the condition whether all the slots are completed. So it doesn't, so it goes back again and checks which slot has not been filled. So it asks for the time. So we got the second slot get running on. It's like what time you went there, and then we have given the input like then once both the slots get filled, so we get the final message like we got the input from user. But if you notice here during the test, like user clicked yes, where did you went out today. So both things has been came out like from the user activity scene. So now we'll remove that condition, like when yes is matched, we don't want this prompt anymore. So it will get translated to the add route scene. So now we'll save this one and test it one more time. So we'll do this trick one more time. So this is kind of a hard refresh, like it should be automatically available. So since with the new builder we are not getting that one. Yes. Yeah. Gas station. At 3 p.m. So now if you see, like we are getting the flow as expected. Like once the scene has been moved to the add root C, like we are getting the slots. So once both the slot gets filled, so we are giving the final message to the user. So as per our plan, like so once the user says yes, we'll get the place, and then we'll get the time at what time they went out. So we have captured these two details. Now what we will do is, like we'll pass these two params to our cloud function, and from there we'll store the data in our DB. So first step, we'll pass the params through webhook, and then once the data has been received there, then we'll start implementing those. Start implementing those things in Firestore DB. So we'll see those things now. So we'll check the dialogues as well. So we are given the dialog, like may I know the place name. So we'll change that one accordingly. So instead of like this, may I know the place name. Okay. And then for the visit time, may I know what time you visited the place. So we'll test it one more time, and we'll check whether the changes which we have made now has been available or not. So the testing has been done, and we'll enable the sandbox mode. So now we'll invoke our action. So we'll click on the suggestions. So we'll now give it as an input, like for so I'll give you the name like 2 p.m. Okay, now the changes in the prompt which we have done earlier has been available. So now we'll start implementing this thing to the cloud function. So we'll pass this place and the visit time params to our cloud function. So we'll see that one now. So now we'll start writing the cloud function. So we'll go back to our local terminal, and then we'll start creating a new function named handle add route. Then we'll pass the conversation. First we'll have a log, like what's the conversation we're getting, and then we need to get the place. So we'll just give a const variable named place. So here like a session. So we having a session. The params named the name which we have given earlier, place, and for the time like visited time. On a session dot params dot visit time. So just confirm whether the placeholder name is like visit time or visit time. Okay, now we'll just print a log for these two things, whether we are getting the place as well as the time as expected. So now we'll give a return to the conversation like data received cloud function, or we can give the name like add route function. Then we'll click save and deploy this guy. So first we'll check whether the params is being received in the cloud function. So meantime what we'll do is like we'll connect this handler in the scene. So what we had is like if both the slots are getting filled out. So instead of prompts, so we'll call the webhook. We'll give the name like add route handler. We can name it out, because both the scene name and call webhook name would be different. So we'll save this one. So as well as we will update here. So we'll open the GCP console as well to see the logs. So we'll click on the logs. So we'll see like once this function gets deployed, we can test this one. Meantime, we'll just confirm whether the webhook handler enable the webhook. Yes. So we can close this location types for now. So we'll check whether the function has been get deployed or not. It's been in progress. So the function gets deployed. So now we'll reset the test. Then we'll enable the sandbox mode. So the sandbox has been enabled. So now we'll test our action.
Let's get the test version of 𝗂𝗏𝗏. Welcome to 𝗂𝗏𝗏.
So we'll choose the suggestion yes. So we'll give like 𝗃𝗶𝗀𝗏𝗏. AM. So the response which you are given from the add root handler is being get called. So now we'll see whether the logs is being get printed. So we'll load the new logs. Okay, now we are getting the params place as 𝗃𝗶𝗀𝗏𝗏, so which we have given earlier. So if you see here, like 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏, like what place the user has visited. So we are receiving it in our cloud function for the 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏, and for the time, so the visitor time is like an object which is having a hours, minutes, seconds and nanoseconds. So for our action, what we need is like only the hour and minute. So we don't want the seconds and milliseconds. So we'll make changes in our function, like since we are going to store in the Firestore like hours and minutes. So we'll try add those logics here. So before that, what we'll do is like to store this data in Firestore, we have to enable the Firestore. So what we'll do now is like we'll go to the Firebase console. So we'll open the console. We'll click on the project. So we'll click on the cloud Firestore. So we'll click create database and click start in test mode. So we'll choose the default Firestore location. So now the Firestore DB has been created. So now how will the way we are going to store the data is like, first we'll be having as a tough random values. Then for each random value we'll be having 3 fields like the current date, the date when the user has given the input, and the place they have visited and the time they have visited. So we'll be capturing these three things for each record. So based on that, we'll be framing our data. So we'll go back to the cloud function now. So first we'll check in the package JSON like whether the Firebase admin is been available. So the Firebase admin and Firebase functions are available. So now one more thing we will need, like we'll be storing the current date. So for that we'll be using the moment package, so which can handle the date and time formats. So we'll install moment. So the moment package has been installed. So now we'll go back to the main function, and then we'll start implementing the Firestore stuffs to store the data in Firestore. So first thing we'll import the Firebase admin. So const admin equal to require Firebase admin as well as moment. So we have imported the Firebase admin and moment. So now we'll initialize the Firestore. So for that, what we'll do is like admin.initialize app. And then we'll give the name like functions.config.firebase. And then we'll create the DB. Firestore, and then the document in which the data will be get stored. So the document will be db document equal to db.collection. So we'll give you the collection name like date tracker. So the initialize part has been complete. So now the first thing what we'll do is like we'll go to the handler, add route handler. Then we'll get the current date. So we'll const current date equal to. So you can use the normal JavaScript also like to get the current date using new date function. So for now we'll be using this one like. So in the next part we'll be having we should generate the report. So we have to convert those dates into year month format. So for those conversion it will be easy if you use moment. So it's up your choice to use whatever things, I mean the library you feel. So I'm using moment for this date conversions. So now I'll use the current date equal to moment dot format. So we will use the format as year, month and date, so it will be easier for us to retrieve the data faster, I mean easily. And then now you can name it as like current date. Instead of current date you can give it as like date. So now we are having the place. Then we need the hours and seconds. So now we'll give the name like hours equal to visitor time dot hours and const minutes equal to visitor time dot minutes. Now we'll add the logics to store the data to Firestore. So before storing the data, we'll be parsing the params in a JSON format. So like const entries or entry. So we'll pass the date, then the place, and then we need the time in hours and minutes. So we'll give the time like const time equal to. So we'll use the tilde operator, hours colon minutes. Suppose if the user doesn't say anything like minutes, like they say like 10 a.m. At that case, what we will do is, so if the minutes is 0 means, then we'll add the zeros, trailing zeros, or we'll just print the visitor time dot minutes, the minutes which user given. And now we'll save the time. So now we'll be having the params like the date at when the user has went, the place they went, and what time they went. So now we'll store these things in db Firestore. So we'll return db.add entry, that's the params which we are going to pass, and then in the function, so if it is get successful, then we'll be showing a message like get added successfully, else if something gets wrong. So we'll use a catch block to catch the errors. So now print the log like error in writing to Firestore, then we'll pass the error, then we'll pass the error to the user like something went wrong, store the data. So now we have returned our logics to store the data to Firestore. So now we'll save this one. So let's we'll put a console log here, like whether things are going as per the plan. Entry. So click save, and then we'll deploy. So before deploying, we'll check all the points has been done as properly. So we have defined the Firebase admin movement, then we have initialized the Firebase, and then we have created a collection named date tracker. So in the date tracker, so we're passing 3 params like date, the current date, the place the user visited, the time, and then we are splitting the time into hours and minutes. So we are giving a logic, if the time minutes is 0, so then we'll be showing a 0, else we'll be giving a 00, and then the minutes, the time. So we'll be formatting the time in hours and minutes, and then we'll pass it as a params, and then we are creating the Firebase add function to store the data. So the date tracker, in the date tracker we'll be adding an entry, so all these params will be going on. So once it is added successfully, we'll be showing the message conversation added successfully, data added successfully, else we'll be showing a different message. So for now we'll save this and deploy. So once this data gets stored properly, then we this message. So instead of data added successfully, we'll give the message which we have created earlier. So that is like reterive store where did you went, what you said, and then we'll ask one more question like after that whether the user went out or not. If they went out, then we will come back to this user activity again. So now we'll check whether the deployment is get completed or not. So the deployment gets started. Now we are creating a simple structure for this storing the data in Firestore. So if you're going to make this one as an action, like you have to do one, like so instead of having a random values, like, once we store the data, so we can see how the data should be. So we can get the user email, and then based on that email we can store the records. So it will be easier for us to like to create a report for the particular user. So since this one is to get familiar with this concept, so I'm just giving it in a flat structure, so you can make things in your way. I think the deployment is taking some time, so we'll wait until it gets completed. I think the server timeout, so we'll deploy it one more time. Again, it might take some time, like we'll see what. So now the deployment is done successfully. So now we'll test this action. So we'll go back to the console and reset the test. Now we'll enable the settings, sandbox. So meantime, like first we'll see that there is no data in the Firestore. So we'll go back to the test and start the action.
Here's the test version of 𝗂𝗓𝗏. Welcome to 𝗂𝗓𝗏. Did you went out today?
So I'll choose yes.
May I know the place name?
The park.
May I know at what time you have visited that place?
5 p.m.
Data added successfully.
So now if you see, like it's a success message from the Firestore, like the data has been added successfully. So now we'll go back to the Firestore and see whether the data has been added. So now I'll refresh the page. So now if you see here, like the collection name which we have given earlier in the like date tracker has been added. So the document is having a random number with the three options, like the date in year, month and date format, and the place which we have visited and the time which we have gone. So now what we'll do is, like, we'll add one more data and see.
Getting the test version of 𝗂𝗓𝗏. Welcome to 𝗂𝗓𝗏. Did you went out today?
So we'll choose yes.
May I know the place name?
So we'll give it like a beach.
May I know at what time you have visited that place?
So we'll use the mic at 6 p.m.
Data added successfully.
So now again the data has been added. So here if you see, like we're getting another data like the beach. So even if you are going multiple places, suppose if you are visiting multiple places in at a stretch, like 5 p.m. you're being there in one place, then at 5:05 you're being there at some other place. So those minute details we can capture out. So if the user provided those details, and we'll be having some sort of a random numbers, like as a identity for each document. So if you're going to build it as an action, so in that case what you can do is, like you can have one more document like a user email. So based on that email you can have a number of documents. So each document will have the fields like date, place and time. So those things you can do it if you want to make it better. So now storing the data to the Firebase DB has been done successfully. So now we'll change the message, like so great, I have stored what you said, first one. So after this what we have to do is, like we have to ask the question one more time, like whether the user has went out after that. So what we will do is, like we'll create one more scene, and then we'll have the suggestions like yes or no, and if the user says yes, then we'll connect it with the user activity one more time. So we'll create that scene now. So we'll go back to the console and create a scene, and so the scene will be like so we are asking the question one more time, did he went out after that. So what we'll do is, like we'll add one more scene and new route, or else we can give like ask So it has the name like @root success. So we'll be asking this question to the user once the data has been added successfully. So now what we'll do is like we'll copy this scene name and we'll go to our function, and then from here, so we'll be navigating to the scene. Like here we'll be asking the question to the user, like we'll be having a prompt. So in that prompt what we will have is, after that, did you went out anywhere? So we'll add that one, and we'll add the suggestions. So the suggestion first will be yes. The suggestion no would be no. So if the user says yes, and then what we will do is like we'll transit to the user activity scene, and if the user says no, I didn't went out anywhere after that, then what we will do is like we'll close the conversation. So with the message like thank you, and whenever you go tell me where you went, till then stay safe. Then we'll try and make a transition, like end the conversation, and we'll click save. We'll save this scene. So now as per the flow, once after storing the data, we'll ask the user one more time whether they went out after that. So with an option yes or no. If they say yes, then it will be go back to the loop, that is the user activity. If they say no means, then it will be showing a message and we'll be stop closing the conversation. And now we'll deploy this one. So we'll check whether we have saved this data. Yeah. And we have updated the message as well. So once that flow gets converted, we have completed the first part. That is like once the user says yes, then we have got the place, the time, then we have stored those details in our Firestore DB, and then after doing that, we'll be asking the question whether they went out anywhere, and with an option yes or no. If the user says yes, it will go back to the user activity scene. Else no means like we'll be closing the conversation with a message. So if this part gets completed, the first part of our day tracker or the COVID tracker action has been over. Then we'll work on the next part, that is like generating the reports and sending those reports through email or WhatsApp based on the user's wish. So now we'll go back and check whether the function has been deployed or not. So still we have not covered this part, like user does not respond. So we'll look at one as well as the refactoring once we complete the report part. So the same thing, if you're going to store only the data in Firestore, then you can use the inline editor for the webhooks instead of using an external one. So since we are going to have the email and WhatsApp integration here, so we have used the external cloud function. think the function gets deployed. So now we'll start testing our action. So we'll reset the test. And then we'll enable the development mode. So now we'll test our action.
Let's get the test version of 𝗂𝗓𝗓. Welcome to 𝗂𝗓𝗓. Did you went out today?
So we'll choose yes.
May I know the place name?
Name we can give like fun now.
May I know at what time you have visited that place?
1 p.m. So we'll check it in the Firestore whether the database has been added.
You have said after that, did you went out anywhere?
So now if you see here, like the message which we have written, like create a store, as well as it has moved to the next scene, like when did you went out anywhere. So now we'll go with the happy path. Yes.
Did you went out today?
Okay, like it's been asking we are connected with the wrong scene, so we'll update that one.
Place name? May I know at what time you have visited that place?
So evening 3.
I have stored what you have said after that. Did you went out anywhere?
So we'll check whether the data has been stored. It's been stored. So now we'll check the second option, like if the user says no.
Thank you. When you grow up, tell me where you have went to and stay safe.
So the message has been shown, conversation has been completed. So we'll update this part alone, like instead of user activity, we'll connect it with the new root, add root scene. So when yes is matched, so it will go to the add root. So we'll test it one more time. So now we'll start the action.
Getting the test version of 𝗂𝗓𝗓. Welcome to 𝗂𝗓𝗓. Did you went out today?
So we'll choose yes.
May I know the place name?
So we'll give like zoom.
May I know at what time you have visited that place?
At 11 a.m.
Great. I have stored what you have said after that. Did you went out anywhere?
Yes.
May I know the place name?
It's like you can give a name like hotel
May I know at what time you have visited that place?
at 2 p.m.
Great. I have stored what you have said after that. Did you went out anywhere?
No. So it will be keep on asking like if you have
Tell me where you have went to and stay safe.
went multiple places. So if not, we can choose no and we can stop the conversation. So now this flow has been completed. So we have completed all these flows except the user doesn't give a response, and the refactoring part completed all the possible flows, as well as all the data is getting stored in our Firestore also. So in the next part, what we'll do is like we'll retrieve this data from Firestore and store it in a and show it in a table. So those things we can do it out. So for now, like we have completed for the first time user as an existing user. For both of the users, we have added the flow except the case 3. So that part we'll handle it later. So that's it with this part. So we'll see in the next part. Till then, thank you.